Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson at Strata Hadoop World in New York City. I'm here at the Javits Center with Eli Collins. Eli, how you doing?
Great, thanks for having me.
Sure, so you're the Chief Technologist for Cloudera.
That's correct.
And I interviewed Amr yesterday, and he's the CTO?
Yes.
So how do you disentangle the CTO from the Chief Technologist?
Well, we now have a CTO's office, and so there's a handful of us that are in the CTO's office, and it's become a big enough role that we've divvied up responsibilities.
Okay, so what does a Chief Technologist do?
So I'm responsible for putting the right technology into the product, and I tend to focus on particular areas, but at a high level, that's what I work on.
Okay, so choosing the right technologies to put in the product, you have some sort of roadmap that you know where you want to get to, or how do you determine what's going to go in?
Yeah, so I keep up with what's going on both in the kind of community of people creating the technology and the community of people who are consuming it, right? And so I spend a lot of time seeing what's being built and then talking to people who have needs. And so part of the role is connecting those two audiences. So a good example of that is Apache Spark. We've been involved with the Berkeley Amp Lab for over 4 years. Matej Zaharia, who's the original creator of Spark, was Cloudera's first intern. So, we had been following that project and that technology for a long time, and we eventually, we're the first distribution to ship it and support it and build on it. And so, but we had an unfair advantage because we had been working with the technology for years.
Before it was the technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had spent a lot of time with our customers and partners. So when I think about people who want to, consume our platform and people who want to build on our platform, I get a lot of insight into what they need, and then I have a kind of relationships with the community. And so I bridge those two worlds. And so a lot of our, my roadmap is about effectively bridging those worlds.
So if you were to look at your roadmap, and that's in your upcoming releases, what your partner ecosystem is kind of echoing to you, and you're figuring out what's important, how would you look at, like, where are we going to be in 18 months or 3 years from now? How are you going to plan long term for a product to morph and to evolve? Yeah,
so it's a good question. We are effectively a platform company. So I worry about kind of all of the technology and partners that we build on. So cloud, storage, those types of companies, as well as all of the partners who want to build products on top of our platform.
Right, the BIs.
Exactly, right. And so those, I basically bucket those threads into those two worlds. And so on the top half of the equation, there's just a lot of things that people want to do to get value out of the data, and there are gaps. And so it's about integrating existing products, it's about helping people build new products, it's about helping our customers build applications. There's really, those are the kind of three audiences for the top half. And then the bottom half, computers are going to look really different in 3 years. We have the luxury of having a really rich partnership with Intel, so we see a lot of the roadmap, and they're doing some pretty incredible stuff. And they plan 5 years out. So I get a bit of a crystal ball into what they're doing. And then, we have a lot of partnerships with, cloud companies, storage companies, other platform companies like Red Hat, and that helps us. And they also plan years out. So that kind of gives me a little bit of insight into what they're doing. And then I'm a focal point of matching those two communities up.
And you obviously know that the Internet of Things is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger in these next couple of years or whatever, so I would imagine you're starting to look at that on your roadmap as well? Or?
Yeah, in general, sensor data, which is kind of how I think about the Internet of Things, has been exploding. So, I had a talk this morning, and I talked about what Intel, the Michael J. Fox Foundation has been doing with Intel on using wearables. And, it used to be that you would get patient diaries, periodically about, the data about how the progression of the disease was going. And now they've got watches that collect all of these, slowness of movement, tremor, sleep quality, and it gets beamed up to the cloud. And then now we have the data for all the patients, right? So if you look at something just like Parkinson's, the amount of data that we're getting through wearables, which I think falls in that Internet of Things category, is exploding. And that's, that's one industry, one sector, one problem. That's happening everywhere.
But that also unleashes maybe more emphasis on parts of the data ecosystem, maybe unstructured data becomes more important or more prevalent or handling that.
Exactly. So winning to me as a platform company is skating to where the puck is going, right? So the types of data problems that people have today are different than the ones they've had for the last 30, 40 years. And so what we're trying to build is a platform that will enable that world of all of those next-gen applications. And so, the future is distributed unevenly. There are people doing that today. but there's way more opportunity in terms of other people doing that as well.
So if you had your crystal ball and it worked really super well, what would you say is going to be the biggest gain in the next 12 months that this whole industry needs to get behind?
Yeah.
What can the industry do in your crystal ball to move the whole industry forward towards that $1 trillion industry that we want to be?
That's really what a big part of this conference has been about, which is how do we get value out of the data. So we've been, in earlier, this is our 5th year of Hadoop World, and now combined with Strata. And one of the major themes this year that I think is going to continue on is getting value out of the data. And that's been, today, that's been something that certain communities have been able to do better than others. And so when I talk about doing all that work to kind of build on the platform, it's about really getting a lot more breadth and depth in terms of all these other applications and tools and ecosystem that can use it. Step one is to kind of collect the data and get the ability to store and process it. Step two is analyzing it and getting value out of it. That step two is where if you look at so many of the talks and then partners at the exhibit booths here, they're really focused on getting value out of the data, which is great, right? Because the whole point of building a platform is that there should be more value built on the platform than the platform itself. And so to the extent that we can create that ecosystem, that's what we need to do.
So one of the themes I've been hearing at this event is that we've gone from a industry of theory that in the last few years have been a lot of talks and a lot of conversations about the theory of big data and how it's going to do this, how it's going to solve these different issues, to more this is in practice now.
Correct.
Where people are actually having and showing results and improvements.
Yes.
Do you notice that trend going on in your ecosystem as well,
Yes.
where the companies are actually seeing the results and
Yes.
measuring them?
Exactly. Yes, I absolutely see that. So Cloudera is a 6-year-old company, and for the first many years, many of the projects were in POC phase, and over the last couple of years, they've gone into production. So, we talk about MasterCard getting PCI compliant and be able to do the things that they're doing in the lab, they can now do in production, and that's huge.
Okay, excellent. So Eli, we look forward to seeing you at all the future events, maybe Barcelona, and we'll see you at events.
Great, thank you
Thanks.
so much.